another episode of What's Cooking with AARP. My name is Amanda and I'm one of your Kansas City area Hy-Vee dietitians. I'm looking forward to preparing a rainbow lasagna with you today for our entree to kick off 2021. As you can imagine, our rainbow lasagna is going to be a very colorful dish using a variety of different types of fruits and vegetables. A reminder to thoroughly clean your hands as well as thoroughly cleaning any cooking surfaces prior to preparing the food today. I'll give us an overview of some of the ingredients that we'll be using and a reminder on a few of the different appliances that we'll be needing, and then we'll get started. Starting off, we have green squash or zucchini squash cut into coins. We're also going to be using spiralized zucchini squash, yellow squash cut into coins, one of my very favorites, beets cut into coins. These are pretty thinly cut and a really nice purple pinkish color. 2 sweet potatoes sliced. These I left the skin on because the skin is going to give a little bit of additional fiber, but if you prefer to take the skin off, you could certainly skin them prior to slicing. And a reminder that with all of this produce, we do want to make sure that we are washing it before cutting it. We have our mushrooms washed and sliced. Then a key ingredient for one of the sauces we'll be preparing is cashews. I'll talk more about this in a minute. Have our cashews. I have 2 different types of cheese options. So one of them is a traditional cheese. One of them is a cheese alternative. I wonder if you can guess which one is which. I'll let you take a closer look. Can you tell a difference? Because there is a difference. One of them is traditional cheese made from dairy products. One of them is not. We're also going to be using a marinara sauce, whichever variety you like. I would recommend one that is a little bit more chunky. This specific lasagna with some added texture in the sauce is going to be a great addition. And then an ingredient that may surprise you, we have the water from the cashews in the way that they were cooked, and I'll explain a little bit more about that briefly. We also are going to be using garlic. Of course, our lasagna recipe calls for garlic as a seasoning to add some flavor. You're going to need a pan, and I would recommend spraying it with an olive oil spray or drizzling a little bit of olive oil to the bottom of it. You will need a blender or a food processor. I'll be using a food processor today, but a blender would work just as well. We are also going to need 2 baking sheets. So I would recommend taking some foil and putting it on top of your baking sheet and then spraying that foil with either an olive oil cooking spray or olive oil itself. That will just help minimize the amount of cleaning and cleaning off of the pan that you need to do. You will need 2 of these. As I mentioned, olive oil will be the oil option that I would recommend using for this meal. The first step in this recipe is to preheat the oven to 450 degrees. Then we're going to get started on the cashew sauce. I'll talk you through that one, and I'm going to show some visuals on the screen as I prepare it so that you can follow along if you'd like to. In a medium saucepan, add 2 cups of water and 1 cup of raw cashews. You're going to bring it to a boil on high heat. Once it's boiling, you'll turn the heat off and leave it for 30 minutes to cool. After the cashews have soaked for that 30 minutes, you're going to drain the cashews, reserving some of the water. You want to keep at least 3/4 of a cup of that water to use for the recipe afterwards. So now that the cashews have soaked, we've drained them, and we have some of the water from that draining process, we're going to combine it in either the blender or the food processor. So you want to measure, and I've got 1 cup here, I've got my cashew water here, and I need 3/4 of a cup that I'm going to put into our food processor. So I'm going to measure 3/4, and here I have half. This is half a cup, and then I'll do another 1/4 of a cup to our blender or food processor. I'm going to set that aside because we are now done with the cashew water once we've gotten 3/4 of a cup. Now our 1 cup of cashews that have been drained, I'm going to also add into the food processor, or if you're using a blender, that would work as well. We are going to blend that until smooth. Our cashew sauce should now be a creamy consistency. Great, so our creamy cashew sauce is ready. I'm gonna leave that here for a minute and switch gears. Hopefully your oven is either preheated or close to being preheated to 450. We're going to use a pan and take our different veggies and we're going to cook them for 20 to 25 minutes at 425. So I'll go ahead and kind of color coordinate on here, but feel free to place them on the sheet as you would like. The 4 veggies that we're doing for this are the zucchini, the yellow squash, the sweet potato, and the beets. We're not double layering them at all. It's okay if they are close to each other, but we are not laying anything on top of each other or stacked. Here we have the second pan that we're going to add those same veggies to. Both pans are going to go into the oven for that 20 to 25 minutes at 450 degrees. Next, while those are in the oven, we're going to spiralize the zucchini. If you don't have a spiralizer, no problem. You can also cut the zucchini into ribbons. This is going to be going on the top of the lasagna. The first step will be to cut both ends. Well, of course, we've already washed the zucchini. We're going to cut both ends off of it. If you have a handheld spiralizer like this, the zucchini is going to go in one part, and then you're going to be turning from the top. I'll let you take a closer look. Next up, we're going to be focusing on our mushrooms, garlic, and that cashew sauce that we made. I'm going to go ahead and transfer the cashew sauce into a different container just so that it's a little bit easier to work with. So I'm just taking a spoon and getting all of that cashew sauce from the food processor or blender if you used a blender and transferring it into a bowl. For the garlic, the recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons, which is the same as half a tablespoon. So I've transferred that into this little bowl. We've got our garlic ready. We also have our mushrooms, and I'm going to pour 1 tablespoon of olive oil, just regular olive oil, into a measuring utensil here. So I'm going to pour this olive oil into the skillet on the stovetop, heat it up. We will cook the garlic for 30 seconds, add the mushrooms, and then cook the mushrooms for 3 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and add the creamy cashew sauce. We've added the olive oil, the garlic, and the mushrooms. I'm stirring this. It's going to cook for 3 minutes. I have browned the mushrooms, removed them from the heat, and I'm now adding that creamy cashew sauce on top. The mushrooms are now mixed into the creamy cashew sauce. At this point, the vegetables in the oven should be done cooking. Go ahead and turn the oven down to 350 degrees, and when it's safe, using a hot pad of some type to keep underneath them, go ahead and take your veggies out. Not sure about yours, but mine are looking really pretty with all the different colors. I think that this variety of colors and mixtures is really fun. Obviously, there's a reason why they call it the rainbow lasagna. I went ahead and combined the 2 different pans of veggies so that they're all on one, just for sake of space. You're probably super ready to get the layers going for the lasagna, and I'm excited to tell you, now is the time. We're ready for the layers. Go ahead and get your pan. We already sprayed some cooking spray on it. I used an olive oil cooking spray, or prepare it as needed. We are going to measure 1/2 cup of our pasta sauce. And like I said, choosing a chunky one is going to give some good texture. I will set that aside. We will need that again in just a moment. We're going to spread it out so it fills or coats the pan. There we go. after the pasta sauce, we're going to add a layer of beets. So go ahead and take a layer of your beets and place them at the bottom of the pan on top of the sauce. After the beets, we're going to add a layer of that really delicious cashew mushroom sauce. Go ahead and add this at your own pace. Your pan of lasagna, or starting it, should now have a layer of red sauce, a layer of beets, and a layer of that creamy cashew mushroom sauce. Next, we're going to put cheese, sweet potatoes, zucchini, and another layer of red sauce. As promised, I have two different cheese options here. I wonder if you can guess the difference between the two. I'll let you take a closer look. One of them is a cheese alternative, and one of them is just traditional mozzarella cheese. Can you tell which is which? What would you guess? This is my left hand, and this is my right hand. I know the video switches them, so for distinction. In this hand, I have the cheese alternative. In this hand, I have the mozzarella cheese. As you can see, they look pretty similar. Slightly different coloring. The cheese alternative is a little bit darker, but this just shows that if you're filling up for a new option, maybe you're looking for an alternative for cheese, this could be an option. I'm gonna do half and half. So we're not using all of the cheese yet, we're just using a portion of it. Your total, this recipe calls for a half cup. So right now you'll be using a 1/4 cup on this layer. I'm gonna go ahead and use a small portion of the cheese alternative on 1/2, and then I'll do another small portion of the traditional cheese on the other half. The texture is different, but what's nice is many of your mozzarella cheese alternatives will still melt. So even though it'll feel a little bit different in your hands, it should still have that melting property. Okay, great. Now we're adding the sweet layer of sweet potatoes. Okay, so you've added your sweet potatoes, you've added your layer of zucchini, and you've added some red sauce. We've got our final layer of red sauce on here. We're gonna go ahead and add another round of cheese, cashew sauce, and yellow squash, followed by cashew sauce, cheese, and zucchini. Say that 5 times fast. How are your layers coming? I should mention, this pan that I'm using is a 9 by 13. This recipe is more so designed for an 8 by 8. My layers are not as high. If you're using the traditional 8 by 8 as recommended in the recipe, then you would be getting a little bit higher on the layers. On this side, I have used the vegan cheese alternative, and on this side, I've used just the traditional mozzarella. Last but not least, let's go ahead and add the zucchini ribbons on top, and we'll get it headed into the oven. Remember, your oven should be at 350 degrees. This final zucchini spiral topping is my favorite part to add, so hopefully it's fun for you too. Next, you're going to bake for about 35 to 45 minutes or until heated all the way throughout and bubbly. Let it stand for 30 minutes before serving and enjoy. Now that our rainbow lasagna is cooked all the way through, you've given it that 35 to 45 minutes in the oven, and at the end it should be a little bit bubbly. We're gonna let it sit for 30 minutes before we serve and enjoy. Can you tell which part has the dairy-free cheese and which part has the traditional mozzarella? I'll let you look at it for a second and make a decision. So, this side is the dairy-free cheese. This side is the traditional mozzarella. You'll see that it still does melt. It's just a little bit different. As the name implies, the rainbow lasagna includes a lot of different colors of vegetables. A few highlights: our sweet potatoes are a great source of vitamin A, which promotes eye health. We have our yellow and our green zucchini, well, our green zucchini and our yellow squash. Those differing colors offer us different antioxidants. The squash is also going to give us a great source of fiber and water content, both which are going to be key for promoting wellness. Another vegetable that we find in here are beets. The beets are a great vibrant veggie, again giving us additional fiber, some water content, and a mix of vitamins and minerals that are going to help us feel our best. Another ingredient that we're looking at in here, cashews. So there are a lot of questions about the health benefits of nuts, and specifically, are different nuts better than others? Well, getting a variety is going to be really good. Nuts are going to be high in your heart-healthy fats, those unsaturated fats. So cashews are a great variety to include, and this is one way that we can get them. This recipe serves 6, and as mentioned, it's designed to be made in the 8x8 pan size. Hopefully you had fun making rainbow lasagna with me today. I so appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, and looking forward to seeing you next time on What's Cooking with AARP. Have an excellent start to 2021.